Cowboys figured out a way to pretty much pick up Carlos Watkins, who's a journeyman, who's been around the block here before. The Cowboys decide to do that due to the fact that Jordan Phillips, who said, that his wrist is okay, but according to reports that they're going to move him to IR. Now, Jordan Phillips is a guy that we utilize a trade for to get him here, and it seems and it appears that they pretty much on the left side of him, not on the right, meaning that they're kind of like moving him out the picture, so he would be gone for at least 4 to 5 weeks or even more, and he could be released after looking at some of this situation of what he said. He said that he is fine enough to play. He did have surgery on the same wrist at the end of the last season with the Giants. Now, granted, this could be some limitations. Maybe it could be a situation whereas he can't use his hands inside, and that could be a thing. But the Cowboys, by us going out getting Carlos Watkins, who's pretty much been a doormat at this point of his career, not really a good thing and a good sight for the Cowboys, if I can be transparent and 1,000,000% with y'all beautiful people that's watching this. Now, granted, this is what Brandon Laurie, he reported this, the Cowboys' investment on the defensive interior line since 2020. Mike McCarthy's era, okay, in 2020. We know about the Gerald McCoy. He didn't get a chance to play. Dontario Poe, he was long in the tooth at the time, and it was reported that he was 380 pounds. They drafted Gallimore, who was pretty good for us for a spell, and he kind of got twisted up with his arm, and he fell off since 2020. Antoine Woods, they decided to circle the block back with him. That didn't really manifest into good things with Antoine Woods. 2020 was a curse year, Hey, 2020 you, for those who've been following the channel. And then in 2021, Carlos Watkins, Brent Urban, remember Osa, who's been pretty good for us. Chauncey Golston, he's still here. Quentin Bohanna. I really think that the Cowboys moved on a little too quickly from Quentin Bohanna. Justin Hamilton, shout out to him. He one of my Natchez boys, big boys down inside. And he was from the practice squad. They signed him up, and he only stayed for a cup of coffee. And then in 2022, Carlos Watkins, we re-signed him. That was a good deal for a situation, but he wasn't really like a thing, whereas we look back at it and say, yeah, this was a great, great movement. John Ridgeway, that was a situation that I can say, all right, maybe, just maybe, but we didn't allow that to manifest and mature. So we see all of that. All right, and then we had Jonathan Hankins, who we can all say, yeah, that was a good one. We kind of popped some champagne bottles. We traded for him because we needed help on stopping the run. But that didn't materialize into a lot of things because he's gone now. And, of course, he didn't want to stay. Tristan Hill, man, oh, man. If I can tell you stories about Tristan Hill, but that's a whole nother conversation. And then in 2023, big Jonathan Hankins, we brought him back. We re-signed him. Yeah, but it took forever. And, played pretty good, but he got hurt right before we went to the postseason again. And then, he was able to play, but it wasn't enough for us. Tack McKinley, he was listed as a defensive tackle, but we didn't get a chance to see a lot of him. Mozzie, we drafted Mozzie. And people have to understand, with that first-round draft pick, normally, when you draft an interior guy on the latter end of the first round, it normally takes 2 to 3 years before you see anything. We can already say, there's already people waving a lot of white flags on this one, right? Because Mozzie, according to information today, he was hurt, or he got it back all twisted up, and he left practice. So we will see how this materialized down the stretch. Fihoko, who's gone now, we drafted him. Tyrus Wheat, shout out to him, who's on the practice squad, and Carl Davis may have to bring him back because he's on someone's practice squad. Is he on this team practice squad? No, I don't think so. He's gone. And then in 2024, Carl Davis, they re-signed him, and I think he's on the practice squad or he's gone. Justin Rogers, we drafted him. He went off to Cincinnati, and then we didn't bring him back for some strange reason. Then Carl Lawson, who is pretty much, if he can stay healthy, he will be a good situation for him. Phil Hoskins, Then my guy Jordan Phillips and then Linval Joseph, who's really long in the tooth. If you look at this list, what I went over today, you can clearly see that you pay for what you get. You went long in the tooth with the interior defensive tackle guys, and you got bitten with the long in the tooth guys. That's just the reality of it. There's no ifs, ands, and buts about it. And basically, just like my guy Martin Talk Cowboys here, we are literally taking, and we're going to use mud, but you can use something else, and we throwing it against the wall to see what sticks. Mozzie, Smith, Osa, Linval Joseph, that's the only thing that's sticking right now. We're trying to throw a Carlos Watkins at this thing. Phil Hoskins, you're next. You're going to try to see what sticks because that's just what it is. We're trying to mud up this wall, you know what I mean, with those particular pieces. And this, my friends, is not absolutely working. The Cowboys, you got $27 million available to spend. I get it all. You had to pay Dak Prescott. You had to pay CeeDee Lamb. You got all of these guys that you got to pay. But with that money, it's meant to be spent. It's not meant to hold on to. With the $27 million, you pay for what you get, and you got to learn to utilize your money early because there was clearly a chance for you to pick up a Matthew Judon, although he's on the edge, not the interior. It was a clear chance for you to go pick out Danielle Hunter. It was a clear chance for you to go out and get guys that can make differences. But the Cowboys, they literally, and I used this analogy before, that they take dumps into the toilet, right? And they refuse to flush. They just keep dumping it and dumping it and dumping it, and it clogs up. And then they wait until everything is pretty much done and over with. The smell is so funky all off season. It smelled to god doggone terrible. It smelled terrible. And then they say, okay, now we'll flush it with CeeDee Lamb. Now we'll flush it with Dak Prescott contract. When if you was going to pay those boys anyway, you could have gotten in front of this. You could have made more and more moves. You would have had money in the free agency to get higher quality players. Instead of picking through the litter now. Instead of scooping up SHIT and throwing it against the wall to see what sticks. And that's where we at right now, unfortunately. But, you know, at the end of the day, people can talk bad about this particular defensive staff or this defensive front or Mike Zim in a situation. But in actuality, look what they giving him to work with. Come on, man. Yeah, scheme is one thing, right? Strategy is another. But talent is talent. You got to have some talent. That's just all I'm saying with it. Cowboy Nation, post me your thoughts. Post me your concerns down below. Shout out to Carlos Watkins. Nobody circles the block better than the Cowboys when it's time to pick up and scoop up some SHIT and see if you can throw it against the wall to see what can stick. Hey, Cowboy Nation, we can't get mad at all of this. This is the Jerry Jones way of how they like to handle this. Unfortunately, everyone have a reason, but results are what matter, and we will see how this season will unfold. 9 times out of 10, the Cowboys, my friend, should have, since they was going to pay it anyway, or since they were going to flush the toilet anyway, they should have did it earlier. Now, these are the consequences. That's been my time. I really thank you all for yours. And remember, you're listening to nothing but the best. Go Cowboys.